Yes.
Uh, Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to start this conversation at the beginning, right? I didn't go through your accolades of all of your athletic accomplishments, being an NCAA long jump champion, an 8-time All-American, a Pan Am Games silver medalist, right? You are one of the best athletes in the world. Period. There's nothing more to say to that. In the world. What does it feel like to kind of go through, and how does your journey as an athlete kind of shape who I'm seeing now?
Oh wow. It shapes you 100% because when you're an athlete competing, that's all you know.
Yeah.
Everything's a competition. And if an athlete tells you different, they're lying. Okay? Because it could be getting to the water fountain. It could be getting something done. It can be just be getting over the obstacle that's in front of you.
Yeah.
That's winning.
Right.
And when you're an athlete and you compete at a certain level, that's what you learn to do.
How does that influence your performance in the classroom? Did that directly translate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It does. It does. It's funny you say that because I remember the day where I just took my lesson plan and balled it up and just threw it in the trash. Because you just learn to pivot. You learn to go a different way. And if the direction that you're going, and I think that's one thing about athletes who, when they emerge into their career, you kind of learn to come at it from different angles and different ways.
Yeah.
You have strategies, you have offense, you have defense. And those same concepts apply in the classroom and in the workplace. Because if the lesson plan that you had implemented is just really not going correct or it's going left, you immediately have to, number one, know your personnel, scan your classroom, see exactly where your needs are so that you can hit them and right where they are. Not hit them, but you can meet them where they are so that you are bringing along the lesson that is intended versus the lesson that you had planned.
Well said. So well said. So we were talking about our experiences as athletes. I've never been to kind of that mountaintop. Like I always saw myself as like yeah, I respect LeBron, but I'd like to play him. Like I saw this thing on Instagram once, and it was like if you had to have one person shoot the shot for your life, like your life is on the line, who are you picking? Like Steph Curry, LeBron, KD, like all these people. And I was sending this back and forth with my cousin. I'm like, I'm shooting the shot for my life. Like I might miss it, I might whatever, I might die, but I'm shooting it. I've never been at that mountaintop where people see me as the greatest or silver medalist for anything. You've been there.
Yeah.
What's it like to stand on that Olympic stage and to be crowned as the silver medalist for the world at that time?
It takes your breath away. It's nothing that you take for granted because it's a very unique, once in a lifetime moment. And for any moment, that moment you're very present for, you're there. It's absent of thought. Yeah. It's absent of reflection. It's absent of, I have to go do this afterwards.
Yeah.
You're just very, very present. It's emotional because you know the days of practices. You know who's taking you to and from. You know what has been poured into this road. Right. Some do, some don't. I can only speak for myself.
For sure.
But it's an emotional time because you know all that poured into this.
For sure.
And all who are along the way.
For sure.
And it's those who are along the way that you really think of in those types of moments.
Oh, excellent. So I'm going to put a pin in that for 1 second because when you're standing on that stage, do you look at the person with gold and like kind of, does your competitive fire kind of point you in that direction, or are you so appreciative of the moment that you don't even think about that?
A little bit of both. But there comes the aspect of gratitude.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you do have to realize that there are hundreds of thousands of people who aren't there.
Yeah, so true.
That you beat.
Yep.
That you overcame to be in this space.
Yeah.
but it's a little bit of you just saying, if I just jumped a little further, I'd be standing up on that next podium up.
Absolutely.
But
Yep.
I mean, there is a level of gratitude.
I get you. I get you. So going back to the kind of path that you were on that led you up to that moment, all the people and all the influences that you had that made you who you had become in that moment. Were there any particular coaches or any experiences you had that you really kind of held on with through your training and through those tougher moments that you just kind of had to push through?
Yeah, yeah. I actually been blessed with amazing coaches, and I wish that for every athlete.
Yeah,
I really, really do, because there's a lot of voices in
Yep.
different stages of my career that I was able to check in on.
yeah,
I was able to hear, those little, those personalities on your shoulder, those personalities
yeah.
that need to show up in those moments or those intersections of
Mm-hmm.
whether you're getting down on yourself, whether you're lifting yourself up, or whether you're just two in your head.
Right,
I was able to pull from a lot of those.
right.
My mother was a major, major influence, probably one of the greatest coaches I've ever.
Mm-hmm.
She herself was a U.S. athlete.
Uh-huh.
She was a long jumper, but she was very much outside of the box.
Yeah,
She was very much into getting you to get to the outcome without emphasizing the process.
mm-hmm.
And that's interesting
Yeah,
because, nowadays a lot of athletes are so fixated on the outcome
right.
that
Absolutely,
they don't really understand the process.
absolutely.
She was very much about the process.
Right,
But
right,
she broke the process down to such a finite state that you didn't know it was a process.
right, right.
You know,
It's just kind of the way you live.
it's just the way you live.
Mhm.
So, for long jumping, it's something that nobody ever really talks about.
Yeah,
Not many people see because
Yeah.
it's in the field. So
yeah,
everybody's running around the Oval Office that we
Right.
call it, the track,
right.
and no one sees the field events.
Mm-hmm.
But with jumping, you can only go where your head is taking you. right?
Well said.
And the one counterbalance is long jumpers look down,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
My mother trained me to look up
Uh-huh.
by placing certain things at the top of stadiums
Oh,
to
wow.
see, to
Okay.
take my vision out of the stadium,
Yeah.
out of the pit, but to raise my chin up, which would take my parabola, my trajectory far where my body was going.
Yeah, yeah.
Who thinks of stuff like that?
Brilliant people have been there before.
Right.
So I ran track in high school and college. I long jumped for about 2 weeks.
Okay.
I know that sometimes the steps you count in practice don't match up with the steps you take in the actual event, right? Sometimes your toe is just over that board, right? And it's getting in your head about things.
Mhm.
When you would mess up or when things wouldn't necessarily go the way you wanted it to go, how did you kind of get yourself back so that you could perform the next one? How did you make sure that one failure never rolled into two?
I had a ritual.
What was that ritual?
I had a ritual. One was step off the runway.
Uh-huh.
2 was to tell myself, be still 3 times. And then bring a new perspective, right? Because it's in track, when you try to run faster, you run slower.
Yeah.
And trying to jump further, you jump shorter.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people understand that concept.
Yeah.
And so usually what you need to tweak isn't physical. It's usually mental. Because when you're warm, you're hot, you're ready, your steps are the same every time.
Right. Right.
And not a lot of people
Right.
understand when you're running on autopilot.
Yeah.
And the long jump is something about precision and accuracy.
Yeah.
And to be precise and to be accurate, you almost have to be absent of your body.
Hmm.
Some of my greatest jumps were moments where I don't even remember
Hmm.
because I just let autopilot kick in and take over.
That's beautiful.
And it's been a few times where I was like, what just happened?
Yeah.
But I'll hear the crowd.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I must have did something right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a ritual.
Do
Because
you
you
s-
can't think that that's just going to happen to pull you into where you need to go.
Yeah.
That has to be intentional
Do you still close your eyes sometimes and hear those crowds?
all the time.
That's beautiful.
All the
I'm
time.
so jealous of you. I love
You know,
it.
when I get the beautiful blessing to be able to coach, and I call it such a blessing
Yeah.
because I have so much experience and it's almost like something I can do in my sleep.
Yeah.
That is joy for me. It really is joy. So I'll get a phone call. Oh, I have a college athlete who's just having a mental block or a challenge.
Yeah.
Can you work with them?
Yeah.
It's almost like I get that back call and I'm like,
Right.
out
Right.
to the rescue, because it's just
Right.
something I can just look, see, hear. I get a
Right.
sensation. I'm like, this is what you need to change. This is what you need to fix.
Right. Coaching absolutely has that joy, especially when you see it click for an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that the joy that you find in coaching is the same as the joy that you found in performing?
There's a difference.
Okay.
There's a difference. Coaching is an extension of you.
Uh-huh.
Competing
Is you.
is you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's coaching is the extended lever.
Yeah.
You know, and with coaching and with teaching is the buy-in.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
there's that piece. You
Mm-hmm.
be greatest coach.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I got this X's and O's and
Right.
it just doesn't land right.
Right.
So
Right.
you have to build capacity with your athlete. You have to get them to buy in.
Yeah.
And then you have to know them.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
then sometimes you have to speak to them in a way that nobody else can speak to them, but they get it.
Right.
So you
Right.
truly have to get to know who your athlete is
Absolutely.
and know how to think, know when they're in their head, know what their quirks are,
Right.
but
Right.
also know how to talk them out of that space.
Did your coaches do a good job of building those relationships with you?
No.
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 No, and you period. No. No, and you succeeded anyway. So that's a gap, but it's not a end all be all kind of gap.
Exactly. This is one thing that I say in my life.
Uh-huh.
Be what you needed.
Mm-hmm.
And in all that I do,
Yeah.
I am what I needed when I was growing up. I am what I needed as an athlete.
Uh-huh.
Those are the sweet spots.
Right.
That's when you get it right.
Right.
Because you know, like, well, I really needed a little more here. I didn't get it.
Right.
But now that I have this opportunity with this athlete, I'm seeing them at the same crossroad that I was. Let me be what I was seeking.
Right. And you talked about we talked a little bit off camera about being raised by your grandmother and being raised by your grandparents, and kind of their distance on life, right? Because they were a couple generations removed.
Right.
Modeled for you how to just not react,
Right.
but to respond to certain things.
Exactly. Yeah.
So do you think that just from their raising you, you had all of these things that you needed to get through all the tough times that would come ahead? Like, did it not matter at that point what a coach said to you, just because you were going to be who you were just off of how you were raised?
100%.
Okay.
And if I could elaborate,
Uh-huh.
it's almost like having a toolbox of tools that you don't know what they're for yet. You know, having a level of resiliency, walking into things, but you don't know you have it, but it's been modeled for you and it's been instilled in you.
Yeah.
But you have yet grown in maturity to understand, why am I implementing it this way?
Yeah.
Why is it that way?
Yeah.
And then as you grow into that, you're like, oh, that's what that was. So that helped me a lot. I didn't know. You know, it's like little gifted children.
Right.
They have these high IQs and these big brains, but they yet know what they're really doing because they haven't grown into it yet.
And you know something about gifted children.
Do I ever? Do I ever?
Because you are now the AD and the first Black female chair of the league.
Exactly.
For the Merman School, which is a school for the gifted.
The highly gifted.
The highly gifted. Yes. You were telling me before they have to take like a IQ test?
Yes.
And what does your IQ have to be?
Over 138.
138. And just tell me, as a lowly, you know, I may be a genius, but I've never quantified it, right? What's an average IQ score?
You know what? I am not the person to answer that. I really am not. I just know that the IQ for entrance into the school is very high.
Okay.
When you're dealing with 138, 140,
yeah,
we even get some 156s.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's a lot, and you come into children who have such large gifts.
Right.
And they're blessed to be at a school that's able to meet those gifts.
Right.
There's a lot of students that are in schools who are teetering at the high end. They left go unmatched. They left go untouched because it's taken for granted that they have it.
Yeah.
But pulling them along their continuum goes missed.
Right.
So I'm so happy to be at a place where they truly meet these gifted kids where they are.
Yeah.
They help expand where they are. And the kids feel seen. They don't feel ostracized. They feel like their needs are being met.
Right.
And the sky is the limit. And trust me, the sky is the
the limit.
limit.
The sky is
Because
the
I've
limit.
seen things.
Absolutely. And they're provided with a certain amount of resources
Yes.
that allow them to capitalize
Yes.
on that genius.
Yes.
Right. But that hasn't always been the case. You haven't always worked at
No.
the school,
No.
right? Tell me about your experience working in public school.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, that's actually where my passion
Uh-huh.
originated. That's where it called me.
Mm.
Because I kind of had an unconventional way of how I stumbled into education.
Uh-huh.
And
How did you stumble into it?
well, I had children.
Uh-huh.
I had children.
Uh-huh.
And I needed a little sense of consistency for them.
Yeah.
I needed to be able to be with them during their breaks and their times. And it just kind of was the stars wonderfully aligned.
Right.
And it brought a lot of consistency and regulation to my life for me.
Yeah.
And then for my children as well.
Yeah.
And who knew that I would be so good at it? But I came with such an entrepreneurial mindset from being a personal trainer, running my business, having a number of gyms around LA. Then I enter an all-girls school in Inglewood. They're like, we're having trouble with enrollment. Things are down here. This isn't working. We're having some challenge with the athlete. I'm like, have we tried being available or visible here? Have we tried implementing this? So then I became an admissions director, an assistant admissions director. I just knew how, when you have a void, you fill it, and you figure it out.
Right.
Increased enrollment by 100 students.
Ooh, okay.
So then I made an instant impact with that.
Yeah.
Then it was on the athletic side, I was able to support a little organization. Kind of saw some things that were needed, and that took off.
Yeah.
Then trickling over into the public sector, there was a lot that I saw that was needed.
Right.
Number one, money. That was truly missing. I was blessed to be the athletic director over some of the greatest athletes we had in our state. No gym, no uniforms, no buses, no practice facilities.
Right.
That hurt my heart.
Yeah.
But instead of sitting there and being hurt,
Right.
it fueled me to find resources. It fueled me to build capacity with the surrounding governing bodies.
Yeah.
To get matching grants, to find additional grants.
Right.
To then find trust.
Right.
Because a lot of these communities didn't have trust with, okay, if I'm going to support this fundraiser, is it going to be what exactly? And I didn't understand that.
Right.
And I was like, I know me. They don't know me.
Right.
I got to get them to know me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That was my first experience with getting a community to have buy-in.
Yeah.
For them to believe in you.
Yeah.
I believe I had a fundraiser and I was auctioning off a TV. And nobody would buy a raffle ticket from me. I was like, well, where's the TV? I'm like, well, I'm not walking around with the TV.
Like carrying it on my back.
But about 500 people showed up to see if there was a TV.
Oh, wow.
And then they bought raffle tickets. And then they're like, oh, she is what she says she is.
Yeah.
She does what she says she does.
Yeah. I think a lot of people aren't.
Right.
And a lot of people are scarred because they run into people who are presenting as one thing and, it just kind of falls apart. 2 questions about your public school experience. One, were you ever like formally trained to be an educator or to be the coach that you became, or was that all just reflective off of your experience as an athlete?
I would say baptism by fire.
Yep.
No formal.
Okay.
The path that I walked helped build the road that I continued on.
Right.
Again, like I said, learning to be what I needed.
Yeah.
Had very little, if any, mentorship.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of uphill battles to fight. And then that one school that I was a part of, I was let go.
For what? That was my second question. Why'd you leave?
I didn't leave. I was asked to go.
Okay. Why?
You know what? I really don't know.
Fair.
I can't really get into the complexities of that.
Yeah.
We all know that in charter and public schools, there's a lot of politics. And I think that played a role.
Yeah.
And in being very good at what you do, it's kind of hard to move someone out.
Right.
I was given a lot of different tasks that seemed impossible, but I would still pull them off.
Yeah.
And finally, they were just like, okay, this isn't working.
Yep.
I was crushed.
Yeah.
I was really crushed. I had built a lot of relationships in the community, and I was putting my resume out because I was let go right in the middle like in the beginning of the year. It's hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me. Staffs are put together. They have what they need. So it was hard.
Yeah.
Putting out my resume. This one wonderful lady who was principal, excuse me, at the time at a Catholic school.
Mm-hmm.
And she kept telling me, they call me Coach Brown, but she always used to call me Brownie. And she used to tell me, she says, Brownie, they need you over the hill, Brownie.
Mm.
And I never understood what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
But the opportunity came for me to apply to the school where I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized there was a difference, but she was the one that really breathed life into me. That said, your gifts and your talents, there's going to be somewhere where they appreciate it and they'll receive it.
Yeah.
You just have to get there.
Yeah. So she was one of those people who kind of just
one of those people.
Spoke to you.
She did.
Right.
She spoke to me.
And gave you what you needed.
And gave me what I needed. But at the time, I didn't know.
Right.
But when I landed there, I was like, guess what? I'm over the hill.
Right.
But and she was so proud of me.
Yeah.
And she, again, I still kept checking in and said, look what I'm doing now. Look what I'm.
Yeah. But
she also told me that I was going to run into a little bit of a hurdle in being on the other side of the hill. That there weren't going to be many teachers that looked like me.
Yeah.
She said, and in doing what you do in athletics, it's not going to be many women that you see.
Right. Right.
And that gave me a heads up for what I was coming into.
Right.
But even then, when you still have no idea.
It hits you like a ton of bricks.
Huh?
Talk to me about some of those hurdles. Like, did you ever, as successful as you were in one aspect, moving to this other kind of role, did you ever deal with imposter syndrome at all?
No.
No? Of course not.
No.
Why would you? Why would that?
I feel bad saying that, but no.
Good. What gave you that strength?
Man. Huh.
Because
I wish I could say I had a secret.
Yeah.
But just being me. I've powered through so much and so many.
You're right.
And this is something we didn't talk about. My brother. My brother really was my initial muse. He's 6 years older than me.
Okay.
And as a little girl, all you want to do is hang out with your big brother.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
He didn't want me around at all. Like zero. Okay?
Right.
I wanted to hang with my brother, his friends. And he was like, no.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're going to hang out with us, then you got to catch all these footballs. If you drop one, you can't come.
Ooh. That's how I learned how to catch. Yeah.
That's how I learned how to catch.
Yeah.
If you want to come, you got to beat all of them in foot race. That's it. Let me lace them up.
I love it.
That's all I wanted to do. So at a young age, that's nothing.
Right.
So that's nothing throughout my career.
That's incredible.
And so it just reflected on me when you asked me that.
Yeah.
That came from there.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So now you're at a position where you help to mentor some newer educators, some newer coaches, teachers, what have you. Do you see that same mentality in them, or how do you see the difference between that mentality that you just had versus some of the hurdles that they'll come to you with?
That's a great question, because not everybody comes with that.
Right.
And in helping people, you can't help people or expect people to be who you are.
Right.
That's the biggest mistake. You have to be open to help people where they need to be helped.
Right.
But also, you have to be clear with people. If you want my help, you have to be open to my help. Because I'm not going to sit here and tell you what you want to hear. I want to tell you things that want to help you elevate you.
Right. Right.
Because I don't like having the same conversations over and over again.
That's insanity.
It is.
That's insanity.
But not everybody's built like that.
Right.
So with my new colleagues, I just try to help them on their resiliency path, because that's what it's really going to take.
Yeah.
It's not that you're wrong.
Right.
And it's not that everybody else is around you is wrong.
Right.
It's just adjusting and adapting.
Yeah.
To your temperance.
Yeah.
You're going to have to put your tolerance level a little higher.
Yeah.
Until it levels off. And you'll make it.
Yeah.
But it's a phase. It's a phase.
Well said. And I'm thinking of, like, in that moment, so much of that mentality comes through athletics
It
and through
does.
just the way that you kind of approach hurdles athletically, right? You can't do something, you work harder at it, you'll
Right.
get there. But your identity as an athlete doesn't outshine your identity as a Black woman. How do those two kind of identities for you, um, how do they interact? How did you develop your understanding of yourself as a Black woman? How did just kind of go into that for me?
And so it's actually a wonderful space that we're in right now with this conversation,
Mm-hmm.
because in arriving where I did, I said, I've gone to predominantly white schools.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there, but it's different
Mm-hmm.
when you're that professional in that space.
Right.
And I learned about myself that I will go harder for my gender
Mm.
than I would go for being Black.
Interesting.
And I had to examine that.
Okay.
And I didn't quite understand.
Yeah.
Because let somebody tell me something, well, you're a woman. What?
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Right. Right.
But let it be about my color, my skin.
Right.
I didn't know what to say.
Mm.
And that bothered me for a while,
Mm-hmm.
because I had the great opportunity of being at the Merman School,
Mm-hmm.
who has been doing the work for over 7 years.
Yeah.
And when I say the work, I'm talking about diversity, equity, inclusivity,
Absolutely.
having diverse teachers, bringing in diverse students.
Right.
I really wasn't the first one to jump in.
Right.
And they would say, Angela, why are you so quiet at these meetings? I'm like, well, I don't know what to say.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, what do you want me to say?
Yeah.
Racism is racism, and they've been dealing with us like this. Like, what is going to change?
Right. Been wrong since it started.
But I was wondering why I was stuck on that narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Goes back to my grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you're raised with 2 generations away,
Right.
who lived, aligned, and walked
Yeah. Yeah.
during those times,
Yeah.
my grandfather always encouraged me, Missy, just keep your head down and don't make waves.
Mm.
Don't cause any trouble.
Right. Right.
And I'm going to predominantly white schools, getting chased home.
Wow.
It's a good thing you're fast, Missy.
Right.
Right?
Wow. So you're being taught not to make waves,
Right.
and at the same time you're standing out because of who you are.
Right.
So were your teammates always supportive and accepting of your Blackness? Did they because you went to a predominantly white school as a in high school. So Merman isn't your first experience with this.
No, it's my first experience being an educator on
Right,
that side.
right.
That's what I'm saying. When I switched sides,
Yeah.
and being the educator versus
Yeah.
being the student,
Yeah,
it was different.
absolutely.
It was different. I don't have any overtly negative experiences.
Uh-huh.
I just knew I was different.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I didn't have the joy of having friends
Yeah,
because I lived an hour and 45 minutes away.
right,
So I didn't
Right.
have those time to hang out after school.
right,
We had to
right.
hit the freeway
Right, we had to
before
get
it was
there.
time,
Yeah.
the interstate, as we call it back east. But I didn't have that time to have friendships like that.
Yeah,
It was like I was bussed in and I was bussed out.
right.
I was never really felt to be an outsider, but other schools always was the friendly reminder.
Okay.
I remember we had a
Okay.
state championship game, and they showed up with Kentucky Fried Chicken buckets on their head.
Whoa,
Yeah, that was interesting.
that is interesting.
Yeah, and I was like, and it wrecked me.
But how do you put two and two together?
What do you mean?
Like, okay, they have Kentucky Fried Chicken buckets on their head. How do you connect the dots as to why they have Kentucky Fried Chicken buckets on their head? Kind of just
Why?
happen.
You just
just
know.
know?
I mean, you look around and it's just
Yeah.
you are the only one with melanin. Your
Right.
family's the only one with melanin in the
Right.
stands,
Right.
and you just can't believe it's this overt.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll tell you, that was a moment where I couldn't perform.
Really.
It was hard.
Mm.
It was hard.
Mhm. Mhm.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
And I remember that.
Mm.
Yeah, I remember that.
Remembering that, holding all the experiences that you have as an educator now to the other side. How do you?
Excuse me.
Yeah, it's okay. how do you kind of set an environment that doesn't allow that to happen for the students that you now serve and for the athletes that you now have? Need a second?
Oh, excuse me. I'm
It's
okay.
okay. Deep breaths. I ask tough questions. This is.
Oh no, that's
This
not
is
your question.
I
Okay,
know.
sorry.
I know. It's okay.
All right, here we go. Here we go. Your question one more time?
Yeah. So holding the experiences that you do and having lived that experience of like not being able to perform in the wake of this kind of just idiotic thing that
Uh-huh.
that kids are doing. As the educator now in those spaces, how do you create an environment that doesn't allow that to happen again, or that protects your black and brown athletes from experiencing the same thing that you experience?
Well, protection has definitions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we could replace protection with preparation,
Mm-hmm.
because we can't control it,
Right.
we can't stop it, we can't keep it from coming in.
Mm-hmm.
But what we can do is help with that trauma.
Okay.
So, like my experience, nobody kind of helped me off that trauma
Right.
log.
Right.
I rode that log
Right.
where I feel that we're able to stand side by side.
Mm-hmm.
We're able to let our students know we see you, we hear you,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
are loved.
Yeah.
Also, in sharing some of those our experiences with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel that being in this space and in this place, when these students move on, no matter where they land or where they graduate or elevate to,
Mm-hmm.
they'll know how they were cared for when trauma struck or when trauma hit.
Right. Right.
And I think that that is the most powerful thing that we can do,
Mm-hmm.
because we can't stop it.
Mm-hmm.
It's out there.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
what we do with it when it presents itself
Right. Right.
is the most integral thing
Absolutely.
that can happen.
Absolutely. So, what advice do you give to newer coaches, to newer administrators, to people throughout the country who are dealing with these things in their schools, who are working at these predominantly white institutions, where as much as we try, as much as we advance this work, there are mistakes that are still happening,
Mm-hmm.
right? What do you say to them that helps them navigate those moments in their own situations?
Well, it's not you.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's definitely not you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't take it personal. Don't make it question who you are.
Right.
You're a consummate professional.
Right.
You have degrees, you have experience.
Right.
Don't let any of these experiences make you think that those things did not happen to quantify you.
Right.
And I think that that's something that happens often, all too often. Whereas if it's parents, if it's colleagues, they make you question yourself.
Mm.
They make you wonder.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let that happen.
Yeah.
You've gone through too much to arrive where you are to think that you don't belong or that you are less than who you are.
Yeah.
I see that happen a lot.
Absolutely.
And that's something that I intentionally step in to do and say, you did receive that degree. You do have that master's.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Don't let this nonsense make you think less than yourself.
Right.
Don't
Right.
let the voices be louder.
Right. True. I'm also thinking that you can have the degrees, you can have the certifications, and not necessarily have done the personal work necessary to appreciate, understand your own experience as a Black person.
Right.
Right. So, how did you get those lessons of like being proud to be Black and what it means to be who you are?
Great colleagues.
Hmm.
I ran into some great colleagues at Merman. Because I tell you, I replaced someone who had been there for about 28 years.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people were happy to see me arrive.
Mm.
A lot of my colleagues weren't happy.
Uh-huh.
A lot of parents were not happy.
Uh-huh.
And I had a colleague who had been in independent schools. I had hired him, and he had been in independent schools for some time.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Like, what is with the disrespect? I just don't understand it. What am I doing?
Yeah.
And he was the first to say, It's not you.
Mm.
Don't take it personal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Keep doing what you're doing. Don't make them make you question yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
so important.
It was very important.
Mm-hmm.
But I did not know how important it was until I then began to actively not receive it, because it was beating me down at first.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that helped to elevate me.
Yeah.
And I was truly grateful for that.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was still on my journey, because like I said, when we started the work, I was still quiet in the room.
Right.
I still wasn't saying much.
Right.
But I also saw how in being quiet, there were still injuries along the way. And it caused me to examine,
Absolutely.
why am I quiet?
Absolutely.
And that's when I realized the influence of my grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized I had to make a shift.
Mm.
And I had to change that.
Mm-hmm. What did you change?
I changed being active versus passive with it.
Nice.
I played a role in it.
Yeah.
I went from that person where a situation would happen and I'd be like, did that just happen?
Right.
Did I just hear that the way it came out?
Right.
Then I'm like, dang.
Right.
I didn't get a chance to say what I needed to say because I was busy processing.
Right. Right.
Then I elevated to, did you intend for me to feel the way I did, the way you said that?
Ooh, what a great question that is.
Oh, yeah. I'm the queen of essential questions.
That's an essential question. That's excellent.
Because you can't escape the answer.
Right.
Without holding up a mirror.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm big in handing out mirrors these days.
Ooh, I like that. I like that.
I'm big in it. But, and as I learned that, the accountability is embedded in that.
Right.
It's not confrontational. It's not controversial.
Right.
It's not aggressive.
Right.
But let's get to the root of it. Because then you just see me as me.
Absolutely.
Not who you have given the thought of me.
Yeah. Yeah. Or the perception that you might have. The perception,
exactly. Right. Let me represent this vessel.
Absolutely. And I think, like, because nobody prepared you for that, and because the experiences that you had weren't necessarily protecting you from that, and you didn't get that education when you should have gotten it,
right,
when you were a student, right? The way that you handle that and then flip that so that you can now serve students in a way that you had never been served yourself.
Right.
I think that makes you royalty. Right. And I think that the fact that you carry that weight willingly doesn't excuse the fact that it still wears you down a little bit. Right.
No, it doesn't.
So the burnout that teachers feel when we talk about educators of color, just like, we're not doing well right now across the board.
Right.
What do you do for self-care that allows you to keep coming back and keep refilling your cup so that you can then go out and pour into others?
I make myself a priority. Before school schedules, before my children's schedules, I am my priority. I make sure there's tasks that I require that get done before the rest get theirs.
Okay.
Working out, having my reading time, making sure that I have quiet.
Yeah.
And my workout is a little, it's a little athlete in me. I feel like I'm going to
I love that.
Kick the day's ass before the day kicks
me.
You
have to. Yeah.
To just get a start on it.
Yeah.
Those are the things that I require.
Gotcha.
And when I get to a point where enough's enough, then I say, you know what? I need a moment.
Right.
And it's okay to need a moment.
Right.
I've also learned that it's okay to not be okay. I think that is that lets the pressure out the valve too.
For sure.
Because we have to, number one, be honest and real with ourselves.
Right.
Before we can be real with anybody else.
Right.
And too many of us aren't there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a harder lesson to learn than it seems sometimes. Just because I think you get caught between a rock and a hard place, right? I identify with your story a lot because of that athletic mindset of tackling this challenge, no matter what it is, no matter what you put in front of me. If my goal is to be on the other side, I'm going to get to that other side.
Right.
What that looks like in terms of carrying all that weight will kind of make you keep carrying that weight and keep banging your head against walls and keep trying to find a way. And to some degree, you will be successful because you're that determined. But it wears you down that much more. And the rest that you're going to have to take just to recoup is harder and harder and harder. But you don't necessarily know that because you're making decisions in the moment,
right?
Not necessarily thinking about the whole layout.
Right.
So how did you like ingrain that into yourself that you were more important than any of these things that any of these hurdles that you had to tackle?
The hard way. The hard way. You know,
That's that trial by fire.
there you go.
Uh-huh.
If
Uh-huh.
you don't take time to rest, your body will rest for you.
So true. So true.
And
Uh-huh.
I've fallen victim to my body like, hey, okay, you can keep going if you
Right.
want to.
Right.
And after a while, it's like, okay,
Right.
I wasn't sick, but this cold came out of somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was feeling all right, but now I'm at the doctor's for some reason.
Yeah.
Your body will let you know. And after years of that, I learned, let me step in for myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
right.
I have the will to, the want to, and the drive to.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that can be a blessing and it can be a curse.
Absolutely.
That's why you got to truly learn to know yourself.
Right.
And I will say that I'm proud to say that I know myself and that I've learned that there's only so much of you that can go around.
Yeah.
And in being a mother,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I intentionally preserve the best parts of me to return home to them.
Yeah.
And you have to prioritize that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be intentional with that.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be consistent with that.
Yeah. Yeah. My daughter's only been alive 18 months, but it's given me a great sense of my priorities.
Yeah.
Like there is a number one thing and there's kind of everything else. And I realized that kind of before her and not even knowing that at the time, but I would always put things in that spot. Sometimes it was football, sometimes it was track, sometimes it was being a teacher at some points, but it all kind of fundamentally misses the point when you have your foundation in that, right? Your foundation has to be in you.
Yeah.
In who you are, who God has called you to be, if you, right?
Yeah.
And building from that center point so that everything is kind of keep the first things first.
Right.
You know? So we're going to break this up a little bit.
Okay.
Right? We're going to switch up the flow just to keep things fresh.
Okay.
Okay? I'm going through a quick speed round of questions, and then I'll get back to your current life as a teacher and some of your thoughts.
Okay, speed round.
Speed round. I had Leo Glaze on the show last time.
Okay.
He told me I shouldn't call it a speed round because I kind of ask questions that you kind of have to think about. But semi-speed round, all right? Professional versus college sports.
College.
Okay. What's your most memorable athlete that you've coached?
She's actually an Olympian right now.
Ooh, okay. Is it because she's an Olympian?
Yes.
Okay. What are you reading right now?
The post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Joy DeGruy. Isn't that a great one?
Mm-hmm.
That one, I finished it.
I have not, so don't mess it up.
I won't spoil it for you. But it was hard for me to finish it because certain points I couldn't just power through it and read it because it was just a lot. I can't watch slave movies.
It's a heavy book.
It's a heavy book. And when she shows you the visual of some of the medical supplies that they use, broke my heart. Sorry. Moving on. Spades or chess?
Spades.
Do you think kids should get grades or no?
No.
Can some kids just not do it?
No.
No? Every kid can?
Yes.
Ooh, okay. Last question. Should an athlete stay in college or go professional?
Stay in college.
Okay. So I'm teaching for the first time a college course on coaching and athletics. And one of the sections that we'll talk about is life lessons through sport. What are some of the life lessons that you think your experience in athletics has taught you?
Oof.
We're not in the speed round anymore.
Oh, I get time now?
You get time now.
I think life lessons, process. Fall in love with the process. And the rest will come. Don't put the cart before the horse.
Right.
And fall in love with it. That you get a chance to continue to sharpen yourself.
Yeah.
To strengthen yourself.
Yeah.
Become a student.
Mm-hmm.
of what it is you love
Mm-hmm.
and share your gift.
Hmm. How do you share your gift?
By enlightening others, by mentorship.
I like that.
Share it because so much more comes back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of sharing your gift, you told me that your daughter now works at the same school as you.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
both of your daughters, to some extent, represent you in their athleticism or in their mentality or whatever.
Yes.
How do you share your gifts with them as somebody who's been to the places that they're trying to get to?
You know, I think I share with them. I think I model a lot
Mm-hmm.
because children innately learn visually.
Yeah.
You can yell at them all day and say whatever out of your mouth.
Yeah.
It doesn't really stick.
Yeah.
But who you are on a consistent basis through what you do really
Uh-huh.
teaches your children. And it's so funny. I think I learn more from them.
Mm.
I truly do.
Mm-hmm.
I believe my oldest daughter and my youngest have to be some of the most profound people.
Ooh, I love that.
You know,
Of course they are. Look at their mother.
my oldest, she said something to me one time because I was just no FaceTime and no
Yeah.
digital media,
Yeah.
no phones, no screens, no this.
Yeah.
And phones go into the thing when you come in the house. You leave them, you go and you come back. And she says, Mom, why are you doing that?
Uh-huh.
And, you know, in most black households, it's like, what do you mean?
What are you questioning me for?
I've sent you to these schools for too long. Like,
Right.
what are these questions?
I said what I said.
And she said, you know, Mom, you're preparing us for a world that you're not even understanding yet.
Ooh.
I wanted to pop her. I did. But it was a lot of truth to what she said.
Yeah. Yeah.
She said, if you hold me back and keep me from it, I'll be behind the curve.
Mm.
What do you say to that?
What did you say to that?
She helped me. They both helped me to be a better parent.
Wow. That's beautiful. How did your experience with parenting make you a better coach?
Let them tell it. You know what? That's hard.
Uh-huh.
Right? Because there's like not a real bargaining agreement with coaching.
Yeah.
But there's a whole lot of bargaining with the parent thing.
I hear you.
So there are two that they're like not one and the same.
Yeah.
But I will say that being a parent made me more of an empathetic coach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not many people understand this, but in being an athletic director and being in charge of programs and being in charge of coaches, I place my children's head on all of those shoulders.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I give the care that I would for my own to them.
Right.
With communication, with safety,
right.
with making sure. Because I only hope and pray
mm-hmm.
that the hands that my children are in are doing the same.
Right. Right.
So there is an amount of overt tenderness and love that I do pour into.
Yeah.
Because I love kids.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that every kid is okay,
mm-hmm.
regardless.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's what makes me a little different.
Yeah.
A lot of people say I do too much, but, you know.
Yeah, but you can never do too much. And that old adage of they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care is like a real thing.
Yeah.
I didn't first learn that through parenting. For me, I came into coaching just off of my experience. I wasn't really trained, and I was always a football coach, football or basketball or track. It wasn't until my first track season, or maybe it was my second track season, I had to coach pole vault.
Okay.
I'd never done pole vault, and I was teaching myself things about pole vault so that I can teach it. And even now, I can get you from I've never done this before to clearing a bar.
Okay.
I'm still working on how to get you from I can clear bars to like mastery, but like that's a different conversation. But anyway, when I started coaching pole vault was my first experience coaching female athletes.
Okay.
And I'm interested to hear your take on it, but fundamentally it was a different kind of relationship, right? It was a different kind of balance that I had to strike for my pole vaulters, right? And I'm interested to hear you talk about the male versus female aspect of that, but also the team sport versus the individual sport, right? I remember, shout out to Sophie. Sophie was my pole vaulter, right? I had a number of them, but Sophie was the first one. I had to make sure she was having an okay day. Or if she wasn't having an okay day, we had to have a conversation about it. I had to check in on her emotions in a way that I was never even thinking about on the football field.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Building those relationships allow for so much more out of that athlete, right? How do you kind of get to a point where you're allowing the space for that emotional growth and that emotional connection while still holding them to a standard that uh, um, that produces success in this quantifiable sport?
Okay. No, no, no. I love these conversations. Uh Goals.
Uh-huh.
Goals are goals.
Yeah.
Right? And how you set the path for them is what makes us all different.
Mm-hmm.
But if in the end this is where we want to get to. Now,
Right.
might be straight lines, curvy lines, swirly lines.
Right.
They might intersect.
Right.
Right? That's where you keep grasp on your athletes, both either male or female.
Mm-hmm.
Their goal course might just be a little different.
Right.
But reminding everybody of where we're going.
Uh-huh.
Let's talk about how we're going to get there.
Right.
Let's talk about short term, intermediate, long term.
Right.
And let's talk about the daily habits that are required.
Mm-hmm.
I'm big on habits.
I like that.
And male or female, habits are habits.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hold you accountable to those habits.
Right.
Accountability is a big piece. Yes, the male and the female athlete, they are different.
Mm-hmm.
Males and females are different.
True.
So the approach is different. But goals and habits are all the same.
Mm-hmm.
And how they approach them, my job is to hold you accountable for how you approach them.
I like that. Does that now extend even into your mentorship of new educators and coaches?
Most definitely. Most definitely.
Okay.
And I'm big on, like I said, goals.
Yeah.
Even with my new hires that I bring in, what do you want?
Right.
What do you want to do?
Right.
What burns in your heart?
Yeah.
What wakes you up in the morning?
Yeah.
And I do my best to bring a little of that
Mm-hmm.
into what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you feel fulfilled.
Right.
It's difficult going somewhere and feeling like there's part of you missing.
Yeah.
But if I can help you work towards where you want to ultimately go,
yeah,
because we're all like ships passing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're all
Mm-hmm.
experiences.
Right.
And so I want people to always be greater than when I met you, when you leave.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Those are my goals.
Yeah.
And so with my new colleagues, my new hires, I always ask for that. And then I try to sprinkle it along their way.
Right.
If you want to know, if you want to get into being an administrator, let me see if I can sprinkle a little of that in here.
Right.
So I can check back in on that. So you can say I've had some comfortable experience in this.
Yeah.
Giving grace with opportunity.
Uh-huh.
Because sometimes the opportunity comes and so does the pressure and so does this.
So true.
And I try to create those experiences without the pressure.
Yeah.
For you to kind of fall down, to figure it out without any backlash.
Has everyone you ever hired answered that call? Has there ever been people who are just like, I'm just where I'm at, like I just kind of want to come here, do my job, and leave?
I've had one.
Yeah.
I've had one.
How do you navigate that relationship?
That was interesting. It's different,
Uh-huh.
you know, and sometimes that's when you have to just acquiesce and just kind of relax a bit because it's like, okay, they're just not on that path that you're on.
Right.
And you respect them for where they are.
Right.
You can keep encouraging, you can check in. And that's really that's when I kind of beat my head on the wall with that one. But yeah, not everybody's for it. And you'll come across one every now and then.
Yeah.
And you say, what are your goals? Or what do you want my goals to be?
Yeah. Because I'm also thinking about that, and it's interesting because so much of athletics to me like plays out in life. But when you think about that team sport versus that individualized sport, my attitude is what my attitude is as long as I perform. Like I can think of a number of track and field athletes and those individualized kind of ones who only looked at their score.
Right.
And only looked at the heights that they cleared.
Right.
It wasn't about how many points that they scored for the team.
Right.
And even if it was about how many points they scored for the team.
Right.
And that kind of individualized mindset seems like something that we're going closer and closer to in coming out of a pandemic, coming out of remote school where everything was just coming at me through a screen. How do you still preach or maybe preach is a wrong word, but how do you still facilitate a team culture a community culture where I am because you are, where we are all together.
Ubuntu.
Ubuntu, right? There you go. How do you still facilitate that kind of culture where when so many people are starting to go more and more towards me, me, me?
You know, it's funny. You're talking to an educator at a highly gifted school.
Uh-huh.
Right. And I don't know if you know much about highly gifted children.
No, tell me about them.
It's very me, 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 I.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's very much I'm proficient in what I do and I'm not sharing that.
Yeah.
And nor do I want to show the ability to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
So don't ask me.
Yeah.
Which is when I arrived, there was no athletic program. I had to build it brick by brick. Right?
From the bottom up.
From the bottom up.
Yeah.
Now coming from public school, it was quite the transition where they needed it and have.
Right.
I've landed in a space where they have, but they don't know what they need.
And they think they have ideas about what they
think
need.
They know. And so that began my journey of understanding the type of children.
Okay.
Had about maybe 50 athletes when I first arrived.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? But I realized I didn't have a culture.
Yeah.
I had to build that culture. And so in building that culture, my premise solely was collaboration, partnership, and teamwork.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Yeah.
I know that some of our students do crave that individualism.
Right.
You know, your golf, your tennis, your cross country, your track. But even I engulf them into a team mentality. Everything is team, regardless of if it's a team sport or an individual.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you said, how can we be if we are not?
Right. What does that look like to get that golfer to feel a sense of community with other golfers or whatever distinction?
It's how you create the practice continuum.
Okay.
If that's how they're practicing and that's how they're working, I sort of make them responsible for somebody else versus responsible for themselves.
Yeah.
And it's a little frustrating at first.
I can
imagine. It's a little cooperative stuff.
Yeah.
We do it with our kinder, and I don't like that. Well, you still have to get across the bridge, whether you like them or not.
Right.
So let's figure out how we work together.
I like that.
So doing a lot of that helps. But just at Merman, there's just a strongness of pulling them out of that natural inclination to be by themselves and to want to figure it out themselves and to not want help.
Yeah.
So that's how we help them become well-rounded citizens.
I like that. We're going to shift to kind of closing this a little bit.
Okay.
But as we do there's one last question I want to ask you. One more thing I'll say to you and we'll get to it. Where do you see the state of education kind of going? Whether it's from our, you can kind of take that on whatever level you want to, like from private schools in the bigger picture of like education in America, totally. You can go the world if you want to, but where do you see us kind of going as we have come out of a pandemic and fighting a lot of the battles that we have been fighting, particularly in a DEI space, right? I said to the Black Royalty Network via email once, I think this is the most important year that we've had possibly ever, because all of our routines have been disrupted and we're now creating the ways that we're going forward. We're at the foundation for what will be right now. And I think a lot of schools aren't necessarily answering that call. From your perspective, where do you see us going?
I think a lot of what you say is very true and real. The state of education, it worries me. We lost a lot of teachers. And the value of teachers, I think, is getting noticed more, but I don't think the value is going up for us. You can only hope and pray that it improves. Going to the DEI space, I do think our time is now. Yeah. And I do think that performative or not, a lot of schools are getting on board, whether it's the right reason or the wrong reason. You know, that door is open for us and for the work and for our students. And we need to do all that we can in the time that we have. Because unfortunately, that door is going to try to close. Right. But let that momentum grow and build, whether it's performative or not. Still take up that space. Yeah. Claim that time. Yeah. And do the work. Yep. You know, I hope, because I do love my little black and brown students coming around my office just to see my face. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that they have my face to see.
Yep. Yep. And that moment kind of means a lot.
It does.
Right? Like I see what this moment is for you and I'm here for it.
Exactly.
I love it. And to that point about the door kind of closing, I feel that. And also can't close as long as I have my foot in it.
Right.
You know? Like I consider myself the spook who sat by the door in a lot of these kind of situations. And I'm gonna stick that thing.
Right, right.
Angela, this has been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed this.
Thank you.
Again, I think the work that you're doing and the value that you add to the students that you serve, to the adults that you serve, is incredible. And I want to use this kind of platform just to add value to people like you and to people who I consider Black royalty. Right. To that end, I've gotten you this gift. This is just for you.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
most
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
And if you'd like to ask Miss Brown more questions, how would they get in contact with you for anybody who may be listening to this?
You can reach me at Miss Coach Brown on Instagram. Miss Coach Brown on Twitter.
Love it.
Yeah, and I think
love it. And you are now part of the Black Royalty Network, so you can also be reached through getting in contact at blackroyalty.ed.com, blackroyalty.ed@gmail.com. That's all of our IG tags, our Instagram tags. Blackroyalty.ed get you where you want to go. Thank you, Ms. Brown, for this conversation. I appreciate you, and that's it for this one.
Thank
Alex.